Challenging economic circumstances, to say the least, and a federal investigation of his police department. Richard Berry might not think of these as the halcyon days of his administration, but last week he appointed Republican Roxanne Myers to the council. The vacancy created by Debbie O'Malley's departure, that gives the mayor a 6-3 majority on the council until the next elections, and that's the fall. Now, Javier, are you and fellow Democrats worried? What do you think here? 6-3 is a pretty daunting number.
And it's not Albuquerque. I mean, it's you know, we're a very diverse city, and in full disclosure, I'm actually part of a group that's raising money for a defense fund to challenge the redistricting that happened.
Interesting.
We're a 47% Hispanic city. The city council redistricted in a way where it went down to 2 out of 9 districts that are majority Hispanic. So LULAC, the League of United Latin American Citizens, is bringing a national council to support that effort. And it's just, you know, it's bad public policy, the redistricting decision, the appointment of Roxanne Myers, because if you look at how the redistricting happened, they combined 2 city council districts in the center of the city, the Valley, and that's who she's representing now. That's the highest demand district in the city. It's the oldest infrastructure. The pockets of poverty are all in that district, all the metropolitan redevelopment areas. And there's just a lot of needs for improvements and revitalization. But Roxanne Myers comes from NIOP. That's who pushed for her to be appointed. That's an organization that's fought for sprawl development on the fringe of the city, and that's what's cannibalized the core.
And that's the National Association of Industrial and Office Properties, NIOP, right. And so what you're proposing is she came out of that milieu, so to speak, and those efforts you're saying to fix some of those problems are not going to get as much attention in your view? Or?
Right. Ike Benton was a great city councilor. He's been working with my neighborhood, Barelas, on a myriad of issues, the rail yard redevelopment. And there's a lot of need for a strong leader who understands the center city's issues and needs. And she just doesn't bring that perspective. And so there's a lot of neighborhoods right now who are very concerned about that.
Interesting. That's an interesting point there, because when you think about the loss of the continuity loss between, you know, what you were just saying, what Ike was trying to do in a lot of different things, there's time to get up to speed, but the needs don't stop. Is that a valid point to what Javier's making here?
Well, yeah,
Something's
Ike's still
lost.
over there. I mean, I think it's the mayor's prerogative to appoint whoever the heck he wants. And he appointed someone he likes, who he believes in, and he believes will work with him on this. Go ahead. When they come up for election, when this period of craziness with the redistricting and nobody living in the actual district is over, the voters will sort it out. And so, you know.
What do you think of Ike Benton's position on this? He fought pretty hard to keep this, you know, in his own hands.
Well, he'd be crazy for not fighting to keep it.
Sure.
I think he's got a strong position, but the mayor has a stronger one, and he won.
Exactly right. Your sense of that too. He won. All right, you know, it's a good point.
Yeah, Gwyneth's spot on. You know, I mean, you know, to the winner go the spoils, and the spoils include being able to choose a counselor in the event a vacancy occurs. Counselor Myers is a very strong businesswoman. And she's a smart lady. I mean, she's going to know that if she does want to be formally elected into the position, she's going to have to listen and respond to the needs of her constituents. And I don't think that association, you know, NAIOP, you know, with all due respect, has done a lot of really good things for the community. They've been very a progressive voice for business, and so, you know, I think it's good to have her on there. What I find interesting, though, is that you have everybody talking about the 6-3, you know, 6 Republicans, 3 Democrats. Well, it's the nonpartisan city council. So, you know, and I agree. I shake my head too. It's like, okay, we're really not nonpartisan anymore. It's as partisan as it gets.
Yeah, as it's ever been probably on council, as a matter of fact. Does all this add up for better times for the mayor? We're joking about his halcyon days here, but in all seriousness, you know, what's out there that's on the horizon that this would be impactful for him? What's he got coming up that he's got some cover now with a 6-3 vote cover?
I don't think he has any cover for anything. I mean, the city is going to be dealing with some really difficult issues coming up. The DOJ investigation is certainly one of them. The fact that the revenues continue to drop and budget issues are going to be huge coming in there. I think it's fantastic that the mayor appointed somebody who's got a very strong business background. It is only a year-long appointment. They're going to have to run for District 2 and District 3 anyways, you know, at the end of next year. You know, I think that having another voice on there that's pro-business and pro-jobs is going to be good for the mayor, but it doesn't mean that any of the tasks in 2013 are going to be any easier.
She's made great pains to say that she's going to be taking a nonpartisan approach. And I have to imagine, as a business person, you don't exactly ask at the front desk, how did you vote before you decide to do business? And that's the beauty of having a business person, Javier. You know, you have to naturally approach the world where everyone's equal in a certain way until proven otherwise. Do you see what I'm getting? Yeah. So perhaps there's some instinct she brings to the table as a business person that might be beneficial here.
Right, and actually she spoke at our neighborhood association, and she worked hard to get the appointment. It was interesting that the mayor said that she had the most hunger. I know Ike worked it pretty hard as well.
Right.
But
what did you make? Let me stop you there. What did you make of that quote? That kind of that sounded very unlike Mayor Richard Berry to me. That was odd in a way.
He was providing cover for the appointment. I mean, and I think, you know,
well, I think it was more than that. They only received one application and resume out of District 3. So when he had to make a decision, there was only one other person that was even interested in District 3. And when I spoke with him, he said he wanted to make sure that he had the most qualified candidates for the 2 positions, which included.
Should he have gone looking, however? I mean, you know, if with only one application?
Well, I mean, I think everybody knew that the opportunity was there. I mean, it was highly publicized. It was run in the paper every single day. And if there wasn't any other interest that came out of District 3, he had to make the decision based on the best qualifications that he received on his desk.
Yeah, I think he missed an opportunity here with this appointment to appoint somebody. Going back to the budget issues, and Roxanne has spoken about, you know, that she brings this business perspective. The City Council is a very nonpartisan body. You've got a limited amount of funding that's got to be divvied up to the entire city, and when you're responding to issues like sprawl, Paseo del Norte is one of them, and you've got a limited amount of funding, you know, it's not going to be possible to invest in the older historic neighborhoods that are really suffering right now. I mean, our downtown is having a hard time, and it needs leadership that's committed to the core and that understands the citywide dynamics, and that can bring together the City Council to dedicate some energy to that. And I'm not sure if the mayor's as committed to that goal.
Interesting. These always say something about something else, these kind of appointments. You know, your values, the mayor's values, you know, political outlook, all that stuff we all know about. What jumped out at you when you heard the name? You've known the woman for, you know, around
and actually,
town.
you know, years ago we did some business with her through my company and hers, and you know, I never really dealt directly with her, but you know, I've always been familiar with her. She's a you know, integrity-based you know, business person. You know, very good, very sharp, very in tune with the community. Asks a lot of questions. Those are the kinds of things. As far as the type of message that the mayor was probably trying to send, and I think he probably would, if given a chance, he'd want to take that soundbite back about, you know, she was hungrier, you know, or something along those lines. But you know,
Mr. Romney said it was inelegantly stated.
Yeah.
That's how these things go.
But you know, when you have a mayor who has a popularity rating, you know, as high as Mayor Berry's is right now, I think he probably should have. I think he cashed in one of his chips, so to speak, to really kind of test to see, you know, just how far he can go in pushing his agenda, which he thinks is the best thing for Albuquerque.
Interesting. Let's go to NIUP here a quick second. We brushed on it a little bit. They've been around forever. It's an enormous organization, nationwide organization, as a matter of fact. When I was working in Washington, you might remember this too. Those guys have a lot of clout all over the country. It's amazing. So clout can go one of two ways, Gwyneth. It can either work against you or it can work for you. NIUP has a huge political voice here, huge. Is part of this that he's just now covered himself, meeting the mayor, by making this appointment? He's in suite with this group, which means with a lot of the development community, he's in very, very good shape here?
Well, that certainly could be the case.
The strategery, as they say?
I mean, he comes from a building background. Certainly that represents his interests, his, you know, his area of expertise. It doesn't surprise me at all that he would be aligned with commercial builders and commercial real estate and believe that that was something right and good to represent. I think it's very consistent with his positions and his philosophy.
Please. Something to watch for is, you know, he's got an election coming up in less than a year. He's lined up the votes. It'll be interesting to see what he gets done capital-wise, what kind of projects get underway, because he's got a lot at stake. But you know, I think when NIUP introduced the last candidate in this area, District 2, Catherine Martinez, to run against Debbie O'Malley, Debbie O'Malley beat her like a drum in the election, because that's who the voters are, and that's who gets elected in those districts.
And as we say, a year from now, we'll see how this all plays out, whether she keeps the job or not. Interesting. We're back with our American Graduate Series in a moment.